Hello everyone. The topic that I wanted to talk about is the importance of team communications. This is a very broad topic, and I just want to cover a few things. It's going to be a short meeting, and I'm pretty sure most of us already know the things that I'm going to talk about. So it's going to be a good reminder for everyone. First of all, let's talk about team communications. Why do we need to communicate? At some point, we're going to need help in our projects or on whatever we're doing during our work. For example, the requirements may not be clear. The existing code base, there may be an existing code base and we are not familiar with it, or also the technical implementation is not clear, or maybe it's not documented as we expected. And also, it's okay that some things may be out of our league at some point. And it's important to bring that up so that we can adjust, or the project manager can adjust the schedule, and so that we can seek help from other consultants. And about seeking help, it's important to be considerate of other consultants' time. For example, when I need help from somebody, usually I say through Slack, when you have a moment, can you help me with something? Or when you have a chance, can you help me with something else? Or can you let me know when we can chat? And this is a good way because we're being polite and we are being considerate of the other consultants' time. Now, if it's something urgent, you can also say, I'm usually very direct if it's urgent, and I say, can we chat? Because of the urgency of the situation. But anyway, always feel free to reach out to other consultants whenever you have a question. And this is a very important part, again, of team communications. And I'm not only going to talk about communicating with our teammates. I'm also going to talk about communicating with the client, and a few things. As I said, it's a very broad topic. Now, before seeking help from other consultants and communicating with them about this, we might want to, of course, debug existing code, or we may want to use Stack Overflow to see if we can find the answer there. And if it's not there, maybe ask the question. We may also want to check out the project documentation. If it's a third-party library, we can look at the GitHub issues and the GitHub discussions. Or we can also come up with multiple questions in a batch instead of asking one by one at different times throughout the day. But again, if this is something urgent, I usually just ask each question at a time. But if it's not urgent, I try to group as many questions that I have and then ask them in a batch. And finally, as a personal rule, when I don't find the answer after 30 minutes or 15 minutes, it's up to you. I ask somebody else for help. Feel free to ask questions at any time if you have, or if you have a comment, feel free to bring it up at any time. Now, as you know, there are several ways to ask for help. When we use chat, we obviously get an immediate response, right? And when we have a question, we ask someone directly, or we can use the developer channel. Now we can also use email, and this is a little slower. It can take a couple of hours, or it might take a day. But we also can call somebody else if it's really urgent. Calling someone is also an option. Personally, I usually use chat. If it's the client, I use email and chat. And I have not used the phone yet to contact someone. I'm just sharing my personal experience. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use phone, just letting you know how things have worked for me in my last project. Now, if you get asked for help, let's put ourselves in the other position. Not that we're asking help, that we are getting asked for help, right? It's okay to say that you're in the middle of something and request maybe 5-10 minutes or any amount of time you need. Why is that? Because, you know, as developers, sometimes when we get interrupted while doing something, we lose our train of thought, and sometimes it's difficult to get back to it, right? For example, last time in the last presentation that I gave, there were some construction workers next door, and I got distracted and lost my train of thought during the presentation because of that. So yeah, it's okay to say, can you give me a few minutes, and then get back after that to the person that is seeking help. Now, it's also, don't feel committed that when someone reaches out to you, that you have to solve their problem, right? Giving guidance is a big help. Also, sometimes having sometimes someone explaining the problem allows that person to unblock themselves, which is called rubber duck debugging. It's a concept that I learned from Carlos Retes. So again, don't feel that you have to solve the other person's problem. Giving feedback is also an important part of team communications. I talked about this last time. Very quickly, I'll just mention that when we give feedback to somebody else, we should try to be in the upper right corner. That means that we should care about the other person and we should challenge them. We should do like a respectful confrontation, and it's called radical candor. Let's keep this one. Other considerations to keep in mind. Let's stop talking about giving feedback. Let's stop talking about asking for help. Just some general thoughts, right? Let's say that you are out of office. It's a good idea to mark your calendar as out of office. In our calendars, you can create a meeting, and then there's an out of office option right there that you can use, and then you just check a box that says all day, and that's it. Any meetings that to which you get added are going to be declined because you will be out of office. So it's a polite way to do so that people know that you are not going to be around. And also, since we're talking about not being around, when you need to go out, it's usually nice to, for example, tell clients, I need to run an errand. We'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes, right? For clients, details are nice, but they are not necessary. Personally, I try to avoid giving details to clients. I just tell them, I need to run an errand and we'll be back in 1 hour. Now let's talk about internally, about when you need to, you need to step away from your desk. When you do that, and other consultants depend on you, it's polite. It's polite to let them know that that you will be out. And for example, if you need to go out for lunch, it's polite to let them know that you're going to be having lunch. Again, this is especially important if someone or some other people are depending on you. Saying grabbing lunch, be right back is helpful. Also, when along the same lines, when other consultants depend on you, it's important to try to pay attention to Slack. Like for example, this morning I forgot to open Slack and I almost miss a meeting. So it's important to avoid being on that situation. Make sure Slack is always open and that you pay attention to it. Also, if you have two monitors and Slack is not in your main window, or the Slack notifications are in your main window, it's also a good idea to make the Slack notifications appear in your main window so that you are aware of when somebody is reaching out to you. Let's continue. Oh, yeah, this is about working from home. Some things to keep in mind. First of all, distractions. It's understandable that while working from home, we'll have distractions, right? Or that we'll need to go to appointments. However, we need to be available most of the time, and we need to be disciplined. Why is that? Because distractions can lead to low productivity, and that can become a problem, obviously. Now, distractions, when I say distractions, I mean your pets, TV, your family, package deliveries, noise from construction next door or construction within your house, or house chores that you need to do. Again, distractions can lead to low productivity. So therefore, we need to be, and we need to be very, very disciplined. Let me continue. Okay, here we go. And while working from home, as you know, we manage our time because we're a results-driven company. And more things to keep in mind along the lines of responsibility. Since we manage our time, it's not cool to be late for meetings, as you know, of course. It's also not cool to reschedule meetings often. And again, this is just a reminder of things that we already know. This is nothing new for us. It's also not cool to keep our teammates waiting for an answer in Slack constantly. And why is this? Because our teammates don't know that we are not in our desk, right? Like when we used to go to the office, we could see when someone got up to go to the restroom or got up from their desk to do something else, right? Maybe to run an errand. And we could ask other people, hey, do you know at what time he or she is going to come back? And we would get an answer, right? But while working from home, that's difficult. So it's polite to let our coworkers know that we're stepping away from our desk and that we'll be back soon, or at what time we'll be coming back. Going to the next slide. And for example, personally, I installed Slack in my phone because sometimes I need to step away from my office and go downstairs at my house. But I always carry my phone with me. And that way, if somebody is reaching out through Slack or Teams, I know right away and I go back to the computer and answer if it's something urgent, or if not, let them know that, hey, I'm grabbing lunch. Can I get back to you in an hour, 30 minutes, something like that? So that's why it's important to install Slack on our phone. And maybe even Teams, if we have direct contact with clients, we can install Teams. It's also important to have a consistent schedule, for example, 7 to 9, 4 to 6, and be consistent with that, right? So that our teammates know when we are online and when they can find us. Almost done here. Team communications. Documentation is an important part of team communications. And I think I talked about this during my last talk, but let's cover it again. It's important to do documentation and cross-training because of the buzz factor or lottery factor, which is the risk that is generated when we lose a key team member, which doesn't happen in our company, right? But because we have like 100% we have 100% retention, but it could happen if our coworker switches to another project, right? So in those cases, that's also considered kind of like a buzz factor, lottery factor. And there's risk because we lose knowledge because somebody in our team switched to another project. And this can be mitigated by documenting, right? For this, personally, I use Confluence. My current project is in Confluence. And if I talk to someone and there's knowledge transfer, I record the meeting, I upload the meeting to Google Drive and create a link in Confluence to Google Drive. Or for example, if I'm doing something new, like doing a deployment of an application that I haven't done before, that I haven't deployed before, I create a document in Confluence explaining how the deployment should happen to do that knowledge transfer, right? Because I probably won't be in that project permanently. Somebody else will come along at some point, And that way, that person can just go to Confluence, look at how the deployment is performed, and do it. Also, cross-training is a good idea to do to improve documentation or knowledge transfer across the team. But anyway, documenting is better. I think this is the last slide. Client communications, this is also important. If you're going to be late with a task or an assignment, the sooner the client knows, the better. Of course, you should talk to your project manager first or your tech lead first, and then that information will get passed to the client. And again, as you know, the sooner the better. Also, this also allows you to avoid creating surprises. Nobody likes surprises. Well, good surprises, yeah, but bad surprises, no. And again, try not to surprise somebody letting them know the day before that you're not going to be done with a task. The sooner that you communicate that, the better. And finally, we as professionals, we work together. If we need to reach out to the client with questions, that's fine. We are not an island. We don't expect each one of us to know everything. So here at Simpat, everyone is available to help out if somebody needs help. And that's why this last bullet says that professionals work together. This was actually the last slide, I think. Yeah. Are there any questions or comments? No? Yeah. Yeah, this was pretty obvious for everyone. So no new information. I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder of how team communications work. So that would be it for me. Thanks everyone for joining.
Sorry, Rodolfo.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, in the talk, you touched an important thing. I mean, documentation. Do we have any good practices for documentation or documenting?
Yes, we actually do. Let me
because there are several resources. I guess I don't know if Jira has something, and you mentioned Confluence, but I don't know what is the preferred way.
Excellent question, Ismail. Let me show you. Let me go to my space here and go to, hold on, break template. Here at Simpat, there was an internal initiative to create a project documentation template. Let me show you what we came up with. Oh, I wanted to open that in a new folder. Okay. Okay. Explaining this is going to take me like 5 minutes, I think. So Ismail, if you have questions, let me know. This is a Confluence template. As you can see, it says business analysis, it says meetings, technical documentation, QA, and closeout. Now, there's a last page here, which shows you the same thing that you're seeing here. So let's walk through this one. As in any project here in Simpat, we're going to have management documentation. We're going to have development or technical documentation, and we're going to have user deliverables. Let's go with the first part of the documentation. For the management documentation, we have stuff related to the project management part of the project, and you have discovery, the discovery document, the proposal document, you have the statement of work document, you have the estimations probably in Excel, You have your kickoff meeting, kickoff slides. You may have a risk log document. You may have other agreements. And here, here, this information, we place that in Google Drive. So let me go to Google Drive. Here we have a lot of projects. This project template is just getting started, or this initiative is getting pushed. It's very recent. So for example, I'll show you the project that I have, which is global resale. Oh, but this was pre-documentation. This was before the internal initiative started. So for example, DWT, this is just an example. You have a PM folder with subfolders for each of your documents, and you can put them there, right? These are for project management. So most likely your project manager is going to be adding, he or she is going to be adding files here. Let's switch to the next section. For business analysis, we may have a requirements document, UX mockups, wireframes, same for UI. And if I go to the Google Drive folder and go up one level and click here in business analysis, you'll see that we have subfolders for each section, and you can upload your files here. Now let's switch to the interesting part, right? For us as developers, it's probably the technical documentation. For technical documentation, we can have the README file. This is this goes in GitHub or DevOps or Bitbucket, whatever source control repository you use. You can also have a design subsection, which goes in Confluence. You can have a deployment environment section and maybe an onboarding. Let me show you what that looks like in another project that I was in, which is called PESI. This project actually has the structure, a very similar structure. This was created also before this template came to exist. So this has kind of like an old folder structure. Oh, that reminds me, since I'm here, I can show you, since this is the template, I can show you the sections here. Yeah, so this will work. So you have a design section right here. You have a deployment environment, which I call environments here. And here you can list, in this case, I'm listing the Azure resources, but since this is a template, this is just like dummy information. You can also have an onboarding section. And in this section, you can have learning videos, and here we list everything that you could put in there. It's not a comprehensive list, but it's kind of complete. And you can also have guides and estimations. You have guides here, and you can put any guides you may want. For example, let's say that your website, your project uses Google Analytics. So you can have a guide on how to set up Google Analytics, right? You can have another guide on how, if you were using .NET 5 and then you switch to .NET 6, you can have an upgrade guide to .NET 6. And you can also have estimations. Usually, well, when we come up with estimates, we create our own Excel and we share the link, right? But since we collaborate with other people, other consultants, the way to go is that we should put all those estimates in Google Drive, in a shared Google Drive. And for that, we have a folder. I probably switched to this folder very quickly, but it's inside technical documentation, and it's inside your project, and your project is inside a list of projects here. Going back to this documentation structure, QA also a really important part of any project. You can have a project test plan, and as you can see, it goes to Google Drive. You can have a test matrix. It could be in Google Drive, and so on. Here we list everything that you could have and where it should live. Now, if somebody wants to create a test plan but doesn't know how to do it, There's people in the company that can guide you. This structure is a what, not a how. Is what you should do, not how you should do it. For example, it doesn't explain how to estimate. It doesn't explain how to create a guide. It doesn't explain how to do onboarding. But it gives you what information you can put for onboarding and for estimates, or guides if you need if somebody wants a guide on how to do a guide or a guide on how to do estimates. You can reach out in the developer channel, and many people will be able, anyone can reach out in the developer channel and people will be able to help with this, Ismael, and so on. I'm not planning to review this document thoroughly with you right now. But I think I covered most of the important parts. What do you think, Ismael?
Excellent, Rodolfo. It's plenty of things there. The template is so extensive.
I'll share this with you and with everyone in the Slack, in the Simpat channel, and you can play with it. We as a company try to create most of the projects here in the projects folder, which is shared with Ashish and, well, our executive team, right, for visibility. So you can reach out to your project manager and to me as well to make sure that your project is here or anyone's project is here. And you can clone this Confluence template very easily. Well, it's not a clone. You copy the pages. How do you do that? You can copy the template into your own space. Oh, sorry, here, space. You pick your space, you select your space, and then you select no parent page, and then you include the 39 child pages, and you click next, and that's it. You're going to have the same template, same layout as this, and you can only just start filling it out as your project progresses. Just one last thought. It's not expected that somebody is going to spend a week filling out all this documentation. It's like a slow process. As you need, for example, if you need a guide, you put the guide here in the technical documentation. Here, if you need to onboard someone, well, maybe this is the time to fill out the onboarding section. If you need to do a deployment, maybe it's time so that you can start filling out the environment section, right? Do you have any questions about this, Ismael?
Oh, Rodolfo, it's very complete, the template, and yeah, I understand it is modular, that you can use, well, depending on the project, the needed sections.
Right, and if you or anyone has suggestions about how to improve this template, feel free to reach out. It's not meant to be a complete list. It's a work in progress. And if you are already documenting your project, there's no need to follow this guide, right? We don't want you to do rework. If you want to, that's fine. If no, that's also fine. The important thing is that we have documentations for other projects. Cool. Okay. Any last questions? Okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone. See you later.
Thank you, Rodolfo.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodolfo.